Welcome into another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. The whole crew is here with you.
Back together again.
Feels like the first time in forever. And it might have been last week. I don't know. We've just all been so busy, like jumping around. But what an episode to get all involved in, because we have a lot to talk about. Lots of goals happened in the past 48 hours or such.
Hearts were broken. Lots of stories. Big moments. Some teams maybe not rising to the occasion. Some doing that. Yeah, we got quite a bit to talk about, really.
Like who? Who, for example? Name names, Henry. Name names.
The no longer supporter shield leading Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yes.
They're in second, but with 2 games in hand.
You have to caveat.
Or as the meme earlier said, the Vancouver cheek claps.
Oh, that's even worse.
Right.
They don't deserve that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, they do not. But we'll talk about it anyways.
Yeah.
But Sydney, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to be back with you guys. I'm going to be gone again because I'm planning a wedding, and I'll be out on pre-wedding stuff and then my honeymoon afterwards. So this is my second to last show before the wedding. Second to last MLS Monday before the wedding, I should say. I'll be here next week, and then the next 2 weeks I will be in the run-up to the wedding and the mini-moon.
Yeah.
So...
And it'll all go by like a blur.
So next Monday we have to have a bachelor party.
Start dropping ideas in the chat.
We'll talk.
You know, here's the thing about it. You don't get a say in it. You're the one getting
I know.
Get sprung last minute.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
To you. Congrats to both of y'all. I mean, obviously we've talked about
recent college
the young college grad here. We also have another one of our staff getting married later on in the summer as well, and then another one at the end of the year. So
it's a big year for us.
big year, yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
No, you know who it wasn't a big year for? Well, it's been a big year for
the Vancouver
Whitecaps. It's been the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's been a big year. Sunday was not a big year or a big day for them.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Didn't quite work out. You know, I'll caveat really quick. I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Omar, I'm so sorry you just got whooped in Ultimate Team. I didn't think that both tournaments related to the word champions would end in 5 losses this weekend.
Nintendo aggregate between
wild
PSG and Cruz Azul.
Yeah, Milan Inter just got spanked, and I was like, well, that's wild. And then we got to see it all over again last night.
Henry, you're more in tune, I think, to I feel like the Liga MX side of things, the Spanish language side of things. What is it called with Cruz Azul? It's like the Cruz Azul effect. It's like a word for it. I don't know. Do you know what it is? Do you remember what it is? I'll have to look it up.
Cruz Azul effect. This is the first time I'm hearing that one.
Well, I forget what it's called. It's I have it. It's Cruz Azuliara. Cruz Azuliara.
What now?
Cruz Azuliara.
What?
Cruz Azul de
Cruz Azuliara.
Layara.
Cruz Azuliara.
I have no idea what word you're even saying, dude. I mean,
I don't need it. Spanish is my language. It means losing into significant final, often implying a sense of inevitability or fate. CRUZAZULEAR. That's what it is.
I feel like you pulled this out of the Marvel Cinematic.
I'm not making it up. But 97.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. But yeah, it was all Cruz Azul last night. And look, we after the run that Vancouver made, right? We were expecting them to, put up a fight. This is the biggest game in the club's history. And they'd already gone to Mexico twice before and gotten results. And they're going back to a stadium that they had been in previously for one of the prior rounds and that they managed to get a result in. And ultimately, this time it feels like only Cruz Azul showed up. Vancouver didn't even register a shot. And it was disappointing. By halftime, the game was already over. It was already 4-0 by halftime, and so it's unfortunate because you still look at this and you go, okay, well, what went wrong? I think it was a lot of things. Was Sebastian Berhalter not being there a factor? Absolutely. I think in midfield they looked kind of lost, and Berhalter had been fantastic for them throughout this run and the season and all. But I don't think that was the only thing. I think also the mentality. I think the occasion was just too big for Vancouver. Their first ever major final, and sometimes that occasion gets to you, and especially when you're away from home in a stadium full of Liga MX fans, they're a passionate bunch, and I got to give it to them. They were bringing the energy, and it's difficult to go there and win on what is ultimately hostile territory.
Yeah.
And so, kudos to Cruz Azul for playing a fantastic game of soccer, completely played Vancouver off the pitch. And I wrote about this for MLS in Espanol. This is a learning experience for Vancouver, for MLS. There's signs that MLS is growing because this rivalry still exists, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it in just a minute. But literally the night before, LAFC beat Club America to get into the playing game. And so when people are like, "Oh, Liga MX is superior to MLS because of this or that," like, I think the power level is more or less balanced. Are there teams that aren't ready to make that jump yet and to reach kind of that glory that we're talking about? Absolutely. And I think Vancouver is one of those that this occasion just came a little bit too fast for. But it's a great experience for them. And kudos to them for getting to this point. And now you're just looking to, first of all, finish the season strong. You still have a lot to fight for. And then you'll be back in the fight for it next season.
Yeah. Let me just real quick address that point on Berhalter, Tyler, before you jump in. So Sebastian Berhalter, of course, rather controversially getting booked and sent off in the semifinal. Well, not controversially because the rule is yellow cards don't reset before the final, and
which is stupid.
Yeah,
it is controversial.
No, he accumulated too many yellow cards, and he ended up missing the final, which. Yeah, the rule definitely needs to be looked at.
2, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, it's 2 yellow cards.
Which is ridiculous.
That's so dumb.
Yeah. But yes, it means a lot because he's a man of form for them. This has been a breakout season for Sebastian Berhalter. That being said, that one player shouldn't undo you, That's not not a knock on Berhalter, but just missing one player shouldn't, or that's not a knock on the team itself, but missing one player, especially with the caliber of Berhalter, shouldn't undo you in the form that it undid on the Vancouver Whitecaps. Like you said, Henry, a lot of times the moment is just too big. And how many times, and I know you said maybe the gap is a lot closer between MLS and the Liga MX than it has been in past years, but it's still a gap. And the golfing class really was evident pretty much from the opening whistle in Cruz Azul versus Vancouver. And it's unfortunate, it really is, because the pro Liga MX crowd is going to say, yeah, the gap is still big, yada, yada, yada. And that's just in the narrative over the past number of years for MLS, roster sizes, spending, etc. It is a real thing. And I'm not saying it isn't, but a lot of times the moment just gets away from a team. I think that's what happened to the Vancouver Whitecaps. Are they a bad team? Absolutely not. I think he just had a bad night, as we've seen again with MLS teams going into Mexico against a superior opponent. And again, now, like you said, you turn the page and you bask in what's been a tremendous run in the Concacaf Champions Cup. Now you turn your full attention to MLS play, where you're still in very good shape. Yes, you're not in the Supporters Shield lead anymore at this time, but you're still in a tremendous shape for this season. Now, what do you do in these next upcoming matches? They have 19 matches to go in MLS play. What do you do moving forward is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much like for that entire conversation because I agree with Henry in that it's not the gap that it used to be. I think there's still somewhat of a gap, but I think on any given day, forget the fact that it's soccer and soccer's weird, but on any given day, most MLS teams could pair up well with most Liga MX teams. And people very quickly forgot that the Vancouver Whitecaps went down to Mexico twice in this run in the Champions Cup and knocked out some really, really good Liga MX teams. So, I think how quickly it's so funny that people forget that happened. That being said, I think like I saw Hercules Gomez put out this. I don't know. I'm assuming I guess it was on Today NA or whatever. But one of the commentators
I know what you were going to
say. Said, and I'm quoting what he said, and this is in Spanish, but this ass whooping is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. But that's just it here really quick. All right. Before we jump into kind of the overall repercussions, whatever you want to call about this entire thing. But I mean, this was not a game where Vancouver went up and gave any kind of good account of themselves. Statistically, it wasn't a moral victory. It wasn't anything really, really wonderful for the Whitecaps. They only had 33% possession. They had no shots. Obviously, no shots on target. No big chances. They had less than half the passing numbers. Forget passing percentage of Cruz Azul. They had one corner on the night. I mean,
one-way traffic all night.
Completely one-way traffic. I mean, let's see. They won less than half of their duels. I mean, it was a bad day. Man. So it's frustrating, but the fact that the Vancouver Whitecaps, who nobody guessed was going to do anything this season, went and made it as far as they did, you can't take away that and the season that they're having. But my biggest question now is, and we're going to probably touch on it a little bit, but what does this do for their MLS season? Does this derail them? Because you never know after these competitions what happens in regular league play.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I think they're doing too well for it to derail them. I mean, even if they, by some weird occurrence, lose the next 10 or fail to win the next 10, I mean, they still could be in the playoffs. But that being said, I don't think this will knock them off the rung that they're on right now. I think they're too good a team. They're too deep a team to let one game kind of make them lose focus. I mean, they have tremendous players. Brian White. They have Ryan Gauld, who's still injured, who I don't know when he'll be back. But they still have too much talent on this team to bottle it over the next 19 matches of MLS play. What do you think, Henry?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, there's always the danger that a loss at that big a stage kind of does. You can take a big morale hit from that, and that is a possibility. And I think we've seen it before to some extent. But, I agree with you. I think this team is just too good right now. And maybe if, this loss had come and Vancouver were like 9th in the West or something like that, or, floating around the playoff line, maybe I would be inclined to think that something similar to that would happen. But right now they're in such a great spot, and this is the only thing that they have. Well, they have this and the Canadian Championship going for them. They're still in the quarterfinals of that. So you're still going for a lot, basically.
I was just about to bring up what Omar brought up in the chat, but he said, Nashville had that like ungodly hangover after the Leagues Cup final.
Yeah, apples and oranges, I think.
A little bit. I mean, but it's still a different competition. That I mean, Nashville now they weren't having the season that Vancouver is having right now.
To be fair,
okay. But then that happened, and they were never the same. Like it was like they got punched so hard they reset.
Yeah.
That is true. And one last thing about Vancouver and Cruz Azul before I think we kind of move on to the next item. I think you also have to bring up the fact that these are two teams that financially just have different resources. We're talking about Cruz Azul is a team that came in and that squad that played last night featured 3 MLS players, 3 former MLS players, and some of the best
One of them scored
in the league.
Yeah.
One of them scored. Mateusz Bogusz scored the 4th goal. Yorgos Yakimakis, former Atlanta United striker and Golden Boot runner-up, was on the bench. Bench. And he was one of the best DPs in the league in his time here. Amazing. And then you had Omar Campos also, and I don't know if you maybe had someone else, but case in point, you're looking at something different. Vancouver didn't have any major signings going into this.
Don't forget about Daniel Rios.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't look at Vancouver's transfer business and go like, oh yeah, this is a franchise player, this is a big money guy. Like, no, they really didn't make huge acquisitions, and part of that is MLS roster restrictions don't allow you to do too much in that regard. One of their DPs is injured, Ryan Gauld, and then just the roster construction kind of derails that a little bit. But you are talking about one of the teams on the continent that has the best financial resources against a heavy underdog in that regard. And so I think the matchup, while we wanted to, I guess we were always rooting for the huge historic upset of Vancouver, Cruz Azul was always, I think, the favorite going into this game.
Yeah.
And the result really doesn't surprise me, given the players that they have, the quality, and the investment. And I think that's part of the gap between Liga MX and Liga MLS and MLS is that kind of financial structure that Liga MX can afford to put millions and millions into every part of the field. And in MLS, you're restricted to really those 3 DP slots if you really, really want to invest heavily.
And you got to remember too that Vancouver's kind of in the middle of being sold.
Yeah.
They're up for sale right now. So it was always going to be a massive uphill battle. But Vancouver, they've been so fun this year that it's just like their story has been really cool. On the other side, though, there was an MLS team that did.
Well, real quick, I just want to add, Cruz Azul are owned by a concrete company, and it's pretty clear that the Vancouver Whitecaps ran into a wall on Sunday night. So I'll just leave it at that.
I appreciate that.
Great. The dad jokes already.
Now we can move on.
Moving on to America's Club America, the most popular.
Literally,
whatever. The most popular club in the Americas, though, for real. I think, statistically speaking.
I mean, it does have a massive fan base wherever you go, really, on the continent.
I mean, I remember when Campeones Cup 2019.
It was a sea of yellow, dude.
It was massive, yeah. And then they played again. What was it, Leagues Cup, or was it a preseason match? I can't even remember. A couple of years ago, and it was just like, hey, here we are again. And to be fair, Cruz Azul Leagues Cup here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we were there for that one, and it was freaking wild. So, these big Liga MX teams, you're not going to get away from the fan base for sure. And kudos to it, man. I think that's amazing. But
especially not in LA, where they played this game, man.
Yeah. But hey, LA did it.
LA got it. They went down at first. They were losing. And then at the very end, Igor Jesus to tie it, goes into extra time. And then Denny Bouanga towards the end of extra time grabs the 2-1 win for LAFC and secures their spot in the Club World Cup. It was a fun game to watch, guys. It was entertaining because I feel like both of these teams, they're at a similar power level. And I know I just talked about that with Vancouver and Cruz Azul, but I think between these two, the gap is even smaller.
Yeah.
And LAFC, ever since it really entered the league, has been one of the powerhouses of MLS. And it's still that, in my opinion. And so good for them. We now have 3 MLS clubs that will be featuring in the Club World Cup, and LAFC will be facing Chelsea, Flamengo, and Tunis in their group.
I mean, I don't think they'll get out. I think Chelsea and Flamengo get out of that group. So I feel like LAFC fans, I mean, they're in the Club World Cup. They'll feel a little bit hard done by that draw, I think. I mean, who was it? Who was it supposed to be in that spot again?
Leon.
Leon. Yeah, I feel like LAFC probably feel a little bit hard done in that group. But they beat America. They got in, and it'll lead to massive financial windfall for the club. Not so much the players. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But congrats to LAFC for punching their ticket and getting into the Club World Cup, joining Miami as these two other MLS teams. Miami, of course, and I just had the second one.
Seattle,
Seattle, of course.
which, by the way, Seattle has an even worse group. They have PSG, Atletico Madrid, and Botafogo. So
yeah, dude.
Good luck, Sounders.
Group of death.
That is awful.
Yeah.
That's awful, especially PSG coming off what they just did. We're talking about 5-0 wins.
Oh, boy. I don't even want to think about what that's going to look like.
I mean,
nobody in the reserves.
That's tough, dude. That's really tough. And the thing is, it's so frustrating about it. I mean, all these teams have changed immensely since the last one. But Seattle, totally different team than they were when they won Champions Cup a couple of years ago.
3 years ago, man.
Yep. Wild.
It's amazing.
But, I mean, this game, like you said, Henry, it was fun to watch. It was an interesting one. It was not completely one-sided like I think maybe some people thought it was going to be. Of course, LAFC just kind of hit the gas at the very end, and that really is, if you look at the stats, that's where they started to kind of grind their way back into the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, America, they were playing their game for a lot of it, but LAFC didn't give up. They didn't give in. And it does kind of remind me of that Campeones Cup match from 2019 in the sense that like it was such a back and forth game. But it took a moment from a veteran guy, in this case, a DP, maybe not so much back then with Atlanta, but it took these guys digging in and really showing why they're getting paid the amount of money that they're getting paid, and Bouanga, he tends to come through for LAFC. That's just him. And it must be nice. It must be nice. But, I'm happy for them. I'm happy to always see, MLS get, some recognition, even if a day later than maybe a little bit of that got taken away by Vancouver.
Igor Jesus, by the way, former Flamingo man, so he'll face his former team in Club World Cup. So a little bit of a wrinkle or narrative going into the Club World Cup, which guys, we'll be here before you know it. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So maybe it's a storyline that has really emerged from Club World Cup. We'll talk about that here in a bit.
Yeah. So we can jump into league play really quick. Before we do that, though, y'all go make sure you check out scarvesandspikes.com for all your Atlanta United coverage. We've got our shows, obviously MLS Monday, our reaction show for games on Sunday normally, and then our regular show on Wednesday. We're going to be doing something really fun next week involving hot sauce. So y'all tune back in for that. Working on a handful of things. So y'all stay tuned. Keep an eye on social media. Big shout out to our partner, Sweetwater Brewery, makers of Rowdy Peach IPA, 420, G13, tons and tons and tons and tons of different beers. Day Trip IPA is one of the new ones. So y'all go check out sweetwaterbrew.com for their list of beers where you can find it, the whole 9 yards. And y'all go to the shop. Go to scarvesandspikes.com. Click on the little shop icon up at the top. Go grab some merch. We got coffee cups. We got beer mugs. We've got shirts, hats, hoodies.
A lot of great merch. Well, no,
all kinds of
hoodies. This is like almost summer.
I know, but some people just wear hoodies just to wear hoodies.
Right. I know.
But all kinds of
Give
stuff.
me a hard time.
So, but no, go get yourself something. We appreciate it. We always appreciate everybody's support. And we got lots of really fun stuff on the way. So y'all definitely stay tuned.
Shall we talk about Inter Miami?
Yeah, Inter Miami.
Oh boy. Yikes.
Columbus fan. It's interesting to me. I'll start us off with this. It's just really interesting to me because these are two over the past 3 years, maybe not Miami. Yeah, to a degree, at least when Messi got here.
Yeah.
We'll say over the past 3 years, these two teams have been, top or near top of the East. They've done things. They've won trophies. You look at them and you don't underestimate them. You as two fan bases, they have recently gone through struggles. Miami, last week people were calling for Mascherano out. I think some of them still are, but they were on a little bit of a downturn, and it's so hard for me to even call it a downturn because you had a couple of bad games. Whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah.
You've had a great season so far. The Crew, one of the best teams in the league over the past 3 years. And now they are, I think if you want to maybe call it a little bit of a downturn, Sydney, you talked about it a couple of weeks ago and you're like, is this it? Like for the Columbus Crew, like is something happening? And
yeah,
they're struggling. So their fans are definitely concerned. I still don't think you can put anything past their coaching staff because we know how good they are.
Right.
But fans have a right to be a little concerned right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Crew are winless in 6. I mean, this is not the way a championship team should be playing. And you said it, Tyler. The Crew have been one of the top teams in MLS for some time. They're now in 5th, 6 points behind Philadelphia, with equal number of matches played. So they're behind the 8 ball a little bit. And I think one of the big concerns for me is, I mean, obviously you put in 5 goals. You don't really want to talk about attacking player, or maybe you do, considering you scored once. But Daniel Gazdag hasn't really found the form that we know he can play at with Columbus. He's now scoreless in 9 matches for the Crew. When he was traded to the Crew from Philadelphia, that cash for a player trade deal, pretty significant deal, we thought, hey, the Crew were leveling up a little bit. Cucho was gone, and now they had brought in a new star. Certainly a different player than Cucho, but a new star to add to their team as they look to maintain their status as, again, one of the top teams in the league. And he has yet to find the form that he needs to find for the Crew. So maybe a little bit concerning for Columbus. Again, winless in the last 6 matches. I don't know the last time they've had a winless stretch that long. And certainly the fake is not seeing out or anything like that. That's foolish, but this is not the same Crew team that we've seen over the past few years. Cucho Hernandez, of course, when he was sold, the big question was around, or going toward Issa Tall, their GM, where do you turn from here? Of course, again, they bring in Gazdag, but he's not really added to the equation much. They need to find some way to get him informed, need to find some way to get him scoring goals, playing at a high level of football. If they don't, or if he doesn't, this could be a little bit tougher for the Crew moving forward. And a 5-1 loss to Miami certainly is a bad look for the team, especially if they're looking to establish itself again as a contender in MLS.
It feels like they're still trying to find the best position for Gazdag. They've kind of tried him in that front too with Rossi, and he hasn't really worked out there. They've tried him on the left as like a left midfielder in recent games, and it's kind of hasn't really worked. He's more in Philadelphia. He was deployed kind of as that number 10 in a diamond 4-4-2, as Philly was so famous for.
Yeah.
And he was effective there. And I just think he's one of those players where if you take him out of the center, he's less effective because he needs to kind of be on the ball to give you what he gives you. And it's hard to do that when you have Diego Rossi on the team, which is why, to me, Columbus signing him didn't really make sense.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think you go from a player like Cucho, who was, I don't want to say a traditional number 9, but he certainly played that role, and he gave you a lot. You could deploy him basically up front, and he could do whatever you needed because he was just that good. He could drift, he could find the ball, he has pace, he could header, he could do everything up top. And so when you have Rossi either behind or off to the side of him, they can complement each other very well. But Gazdag isn't that type of player. He's not really a 9, is what I'm saying. He's more of that attacking midfielder type of player. And so trying to force him to play the 9 or the wing or a second striker, it kind of keeps him out of his comfort zone. And so now the team also has to figure out, okay, how do we play without Cucho Hernandez. And they've done that very well ever since Cucho left. But now they're trying to integrate Gazdag in a different position.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really gone well for them. And so I'm sure there's an answer there somewhere because Gazdag's a great player. And, Nancy's a genius, and he'll probably figure it out in a few games, and they'll be all well and good. I mean, they face Atlanta in a few games. There's no way they don't figure it out by then.
Right.
So, I think they'll be fine. But it is a dilemma because at the end of the day, again, I don't think Gazdag fits this team, at least the way that it had been in previous years.
Yeah. AX10. every day you guys are going to get crap for talking about Miggy. No,
I regret
it. I think the way that Columbus plays on any given day, it's going to beat any team in MLS because they execute it very well. They take the possession, the playing through press, kind of quote unquote total soccer, whatever you want to call it. They do it the best in the league. I think that's undeniable. But if they're off their game a little bit, a team like Miami is going to punish them because you have some of the best finishers in the entire world. Messi, obviously, you don't have to ask, but 2 goals, 2 assists on the day. Like that's a Messi day, right? It's just how it is. But what's frustrating, I think, and this is kind of like some of the same gripe that I had about Atlanta United this weekend was you're playing, what you're playing against. Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Sergio Busquets all started this game. Busquets to a degree, but when Messi and Suarez, especially when they start, they do not help you defend. They don't. And it's not like this is oh my gosh, like the Angels are coming down, eye-opening moment. Like we know this because they're older now. They're conserving their energy. And I mean, Messi, to be fair, he's always been that player that, people get frustrated because he walks everywhere. He's not going to go back and help you defend like that. It's just not his game. Suarez, his knees can't handle that much running. If I'm being honest, and I'm not trying to be a douchebag, like that's just how it is. And instead of trying to play a little faster, be a little more urgent with the ball, Columbus, they possessed it into oblivion. And they, look, I mean, the stats, the possession stats were almost 50-50 in this game. And I'm not calling for a team, especially one coached by Wilfred Nancy, to go and change their entire game plan. But I would like to see a little bit of nuance when it comes to playing a team that clearly has a weakness because defensively, Miami has not been great in general for a couple of seasons. So you have Gazdag, you have, Rossi, you got guys that can score the ball. Right. You just need to get it to them in dangerous spots. They possessed the ball, but they were toothless in the attack. They had less than 1 expected goal. It was not a well thought out game plan, in my opinion. Yeah. Or if it was thought out, it wasn't executed the way I think that maybe Nazi wanted it to be.
Well, let's talk quickly though about go back to Miami just real quick. Messi now 5 goals and 4 assists in his last 3 matches. Suarez 3 goals in his last 2 matches. So even though the discussion will be about how much can their legs hold up, what will it look like for them toward the back end of the season? They are getting the job done. As of late, Miami as a whole has scored 12 times in the last 3 matches. So maybe, like you said, Tyler, we're talking about Mascherano out just a little bit. And maybe, like you said, some fans are still Mascherano out. But Miami is maybe finding another gear and getting themselves in a good position to make a run up the table. And I feel like a struggle for them is success for another team, for a lot of other teams. So I feel like it's a little bit of a relative term to say they're struggling. But yeah, they did go on a 4-match winless skid where, they needed to battle back to draw Philadelphia. And then they've won back-to-back matches against Montreal, Columbus. They're off for a little bit. They play Atlanta next, obviously. But maybe this Miami team, and of course there's Club World Cup in between that, but we look at MLS play, maybe Miami are finding new gear. Now, on the back of Club World Cup, what will that look like? How will Messi, Suarez? Well, Messi will be on an international day, but how will Messi and Suarez? How will they be deployed and be attacked during Club World Cup? Will Mascherano kind of go easy on them, or will he go full force? I think he will, because this is another trophy that Inter Miami can win, and this is a tough group for them. So I think that they're going to be full speed ahead in Club World Cup, but you have to balance that if you're Messi, if you're Suarez, considering their age and overall health. So I think that's the storyline that we'll have to look at and keep an eye on as the season progresses. But Miami, 5-1. Gosh, that's not a good look for the crew if you're trying to get things back together.
Yeah. I'll throw this out there too. Miami, speaking of the Club World Cup, June 19th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they're playing Porto.
Yes.
Yours truly, all of us, will be there for a pre-match show at the Signia, right next door to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So y'all come out, 1 o'clock. The game's at 3. We'll be kicking off, obviously, earlier, a couple hours early. And, chatting Club World Cup, everything that's going on up until that point, because that's a few days in. So we definitely have some matches to talk about. But, that's one of 3 early big ones that Mercedes-Benz is going to host. So,
no,
good stuff.
I feel like we should go to the other end of the spectrum.
The other LA team. They finally.
It's a big week for LA soccer.
It really is. They finally did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them.
The streak ends here. It took them, check the notes, 17 games to win.
Wow.
Halfway through the season.
What's the record, 18 or 17?
I think it was 16.
They wanted to, they have the most MLS Cups out of every team, any team in history. They now want to set a new record for most winless results or longest winless streak to start a season in MLS history. So respect the effort for the LA Galaxy, one of the charter clubs of MLS, making history once again in MLS's 30th season.
Well, they have the record now. I'm trying to see who had it before.
Well,
while y'all talk, I'm going to find out.
Do your research while we discuss.
Holy crap, dude.
Good for the crew, though. Good for the Galaxy.
It's great for them. And I'm glad their fans finally, got something out of this season. But it's, the question now is it too little too late? Again, you have 17 games left of this season. Looking at the table, you are still last.
Well,
no shocker. You have 7 points. God, I'm sorry. It's just you have 7 points.
It's bad.
You are 7 points back of 14th. or like St. Louis is right ahead of you, and they have 7 more points than you.
And they're on an interim coach.
Exactly. Like you are 13 points off of a play-in spot.
Yeah.
Can they make it happen is the question. And this was a hot topic of discussion from the MLS on air folks, the talent over at MLS, and I think Dax McCarty and Sasha Kleshid were the ones making bets of either bleaching their hair or shaving their hair or whatever. But like does the Galaxy, can they make the playoffs? And guys, I'm not convinced, because this is one game of a disastrous
that's a long
season.
Way to go.
If they make the playoffs,
y'all would need
give Vandy a lifetime.
Y'all
contract.
would need several games in a row, several wins in a row from here on out to even get close. Because y'all are in such a deep hole at this point. Like, can you make it out?
Yeah.
Well, so just out of curiosity, and the record, by the way, it was Red Bulls apparently over a decade ago at 14.
Did they still make the playoffs that year?
Oh, that's a great question.
You'll have to check.
Probably not.
Rhetorical question.
Let's just say So the Galaxy, 7 points on the season. Man, rest in peace. The nearest playoff spot is at 20 points.
Yeah.
So 13 points away just to get into a playoff. And that's barring whatever other movements happen in that time. That is a tall task.
So Vanny got the extension, which is, in the midst of the winless streak, kind of weird. They did lead the MLS Cup last year, so I feel like that counts for something. I was a little surprised when it happened, but like I said earlier, if he gets to see the playoffs, just sign up to a lifetime contract, man. This is going to take some mountains being moved.
Yeah. It's an uphill battle, but my philosophy when it comes to MLS is I'm not counting anybody out until they're mathematically out.
Except Montreal.
Yeah, well,
that's a lost cause by this point.
And yes, Don,
I know. Just real quick, I know we as Atlanta fans are kind of laughing because of LAFC. In Atlanta, things aren't that much better. Things aren't that much better as Atlanta fans. So I'm not sure we have a lot to let, but it's still LA Galaxy are not good.
The thing is, it's a historical moment, right? It's a record-breaking winless streak. It is coming literally off the back. Like the last game that they won was MLS Cup.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like to see things fall that far is mind-blowing. And we talked about it. Like, I know I said it a lot in the preseason. I was like, oh, they'll be fine come the middle of the season when Ricky Pooch gets back, injuries are over, blah, blah, blah. And they might. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You can't count them out. You can't count anybody out until mathematically they're out, because one player absolutely can change an entire course of a season.
Man, but that is tough.
That's a long way to go.
That's a hell to climb.
Y'all, I'm not great at math, but I'm going to pull out the math real quick. So the Galaxy, we again said they're sitting on 7 points, about the average of 9th place, which is the play-in spot. Over the past few seasons, average is about 44 points for that spot, which means that the Galaxy need 37 points from their last 17 games, right? A maximum of 51 points. You need 37. So you need quite a few wins, and they've got some tough games still on the schedule. They still have to host Vancouver. They still have an El Tráfico to go. Inter Miami, they face Inter Miami. Like it's gonna be brutal for them. And again, the question mark is, when does Ricky Pooch get back? When he gets back, what's his level going to be like? Is he going to be, we know that he was good last season. We know that he was phenomenal player, but players come back from these injuries and sometimes they're not the same. And we have experience with that here in Atlanta.
It's the biggest
Joseph Martinez.
Yep.
So the question is, does Ricky Pooch come back the same Ricky Pooch that, before his injury? And if that happens, great. That's the best case scenario for the Galaxy. But if he doesn't, and the Galaxy are banking on him being that guy, this could probably end up not being good for them.
I'll ask this really quick before we move on. Do you think they try for anything significant in the summer transfer window? Or is the season just kind of like, we're going to hang it on Ricky and just hope that that's enough and bank everything for next year? Or do they try to save it in the summer?
Yeah. I feel like there's credence in that. You have Pooch already. You have Paintzel. You have Peck. So all of your 3 DP slots are filled up. So I think you just kind of hedge your bets and hope that, Peck kind of finds form. He's not really been the player that he was last year for LA Galaxy by any stretch of the imagination. Paintzel was injured beginning of the season, so I know they're going to be hoping that he finds his form and gets on the good run for them even before Pooch comes back. And then, Pooch, just waiting for him to get fit, get healthy. So I think it's just wait and see. I don't know if they make any major moves over the summer window. That's just my opinion. That's where I see it right now.
I mean, the thing is, looking at their roster, I don't think there's any space for moves. I mean, they have all 30. They have all 30 roster slots filled up, so they would have to, in theory, they would have to move someone out in order to, bring someone in. And the question is, assuming you do that, where do you enforce? For me, it would be somewhere at the back. Well, how much is left on that contract?
They're 2026.
Through 2026?
Yeah.
I think you're stuck with him. Miguel Perry's contract runs out at the end of the season with an option for 26. You have a few contracts expiring at the end of the season, though, that you could, be flexible with. I think if they do anything, like if they happen to do anything, it would be set up for next season because there's not really much that they can do right now. You can't make any big, impactful, splashy signings.
Right.
But yeah, you're in a tough position.
I think this is the team that you have the impactful signing. You have like the big names, right? You have the guys that have shown that they can do it. I think you need a slightly better supporting staff.
I just feel like in the offseason, they downgraded at almost every position, and it was because of necessity, because you had to dump some roster stuff, some contracts that were, going to go up, and you had to get rid of them, similar to what Atlanta United had happened to them after 2019. But again, like the center backs that they got to replace what was, Jaden Neal and some of these other guys, like not at all close. Mark Delgado was huge in that midfield, and getting rid of them, I still think, is one of the biggest mistakes that they've ever made. And now he's balling over at LAFC, and they're still trying to figure that out right now. And again, without Ricky Puig, yes, it looks terrible because he was the engine of that team. But when you have some of that supporting structure kind of go away, this is kind of what you're left with.
Yep.
I'll throw this out there just real quick, guys. So LA have three keepers: Mikovic, who they brought in the offseason. They have McCarthy still, and they have JT Marcinkowski still. So I imagine there's a world where you look at Marcinkowski, he signed through 2026, after the 2027. Mikovic signed to that same deal, and then McCarthy contract ends in 2025. So I feel like there is a world where they possibly trade McCarthy, or maybe just trade McCarthy, open up the space for you, get some gas for him, and maybe possibly try to make a move. So that's my opinion. I think that's probably the most common, the more likely scenario, especially with where they are right now. But by and large, I don't think they'll make any major moves in the offseason.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Another historical event. And C. Smith, by the way, appreciate you commenting. I don't know if this is your first time, but we try to hit on comments a whole lot. Sometimes, days are different. Days are better than others. Days are busier than others, but appreciate you jumping in. And I'll leave the Galaxy talk on this conversation. Omar was saying that they haven't adjusted anything either. And I think that is kind of a big part of it. I mean, you look at Atlanta right now, and for all the struggles that Atlanta has, I mean, you at least see Ronnie Dalla trying something different.
Yeah.
Throwing stuff at the wall until something sticks. And I mean, he's kind of found a little bit of success with this 3-5-2. The Galaxy, Greg Vanney has just kind of stuck to what he has been doing. And in theory, Marco Royce should be able to step in and not do the same thing that Ricky Puig does, because Ricky Puig is younger. He's a little more mobile. But Marco Royce has the experience. He's that guy, But I mean, it's not working out. So I do agree. I mean, I think like Omar, for sure. Yeah, they've got to do something a little different. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just try. You're not going to do any worse. You finally got to win. Woo-hoo. You need to do a lot more to save this season. So
you
need a win streak now, and a big one.
Go for the 2.
Right.
And again, they're facing St. Louis not next weekend, but the weekend after. And so, St. Louis is right above you. You got to, they just changed their manager. It's a chance for you to continue the streak and keep it going.
will be that weekend's drunk uncle game of the week for sure.
The Sweetwater Drunkle game of the. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Had a few too many gummy beers.
Right.
Another drunken game, at least in Minnesota standards. It was a historical win because Minnesota has never won at Lumen Field
until Saturday.
They
until
did
Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah, sorry.
Sunday.
Whatever. I don't even know what day it is now.
Sunday night soccer
this weekend.
What do you think? I mean, it was a good match. I mean, it was kind of exciting to see.
Well, I think it definitely was. I think one of the storylines to really take a look at for this match is before the match, the Sounders came out with cash grab T-shirts protesting the payout for the Club World Cup. So just to add some context to that, so the farther you advance in Club World Cup, each team gets a payout, increased payout. So if you make the knockout stage, you make the semifinals, finals, that prize money increases. That being said, under the MLS CBA, teams in MLS will only get $1 million to split among the players, regardless how far they get. The club itself will make a financial windfall, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I was reading Jada Evans' article on it from
I'll
Sunday.
throw this out there. How much money overall in prize money is FIFA giving out in this tournament?
I just pulled it up. So
over $1 billion.
Yeah. So 525 million split among 32 teams, and then 475 more based on how far you get. And again, pulling up Jada Evans' article in the Seattle Times, the winner will get $40 million. The runner-up will get $30 million. Each win, you get $2 million. Each draw, you get $1 million in the group stage. You're another $7.5 million if you get to the knockout stage. Get a quarterfinal or win a quarterfinal, make 13.125. Get to the semis, win the semis, you get $21 million. That goes to the clubs. But again, under the CBA, you only get $1 million per club. Or, I'm sorry, to be split among the players, regardless of how far you get if you're an MLS club, which is absolutely preposterous.
And it's so in the math for that is essentially 33,000.
Yeah.
333.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Per person, per player.
Yeah. I mean,
I would love $33,000. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But, yeah.
Considering there's over $1 billion in play, that's absolutely insane.
That needs to be a massive talking point for the players in the league and the new CBA. But that's a shocking that players will only be entitled to that much money under the CBA. One of the comparisons that Jada Evans noted is Real Madrid. If Real Madrid wins, the club will give each player $1 million. Each player.
Damn.
Versus MLS splitting $1 million among its players, regardless of how far. I mean, that's wild. That's just ridiculous. I mean,
it's absurd.
What is this? The players have every right to protest. Like, this is their livelihood. This is an honor to play in this competition, and you're being told by the MLS, by the CBA, that you're only going to get $1 million split among your players, regardless of how far you get in this tournament. It's absolutely slap in the face to these players who, this is one of the biggest tournaments from a club standpoint that they'll play in their lives, from a club standpoint. And just the financial disparity between MLS and other clubs around the league is absolutely preposterous. It needs to be addressed by CBA when it comes up. It's just infuriating. And the players, again, have every right to protest this. Yeah.
And by the way, the MLS Players Association did release a statement yesterday saying that the Players Association and all MLS players stand united with the Seattle Sounders, who tonight demanded a fair share of their FIFA Club World Cup prize money, and basically went on to say that, FIFA, this tournament it increases the workload on these players because they're having to play in another tournament while they are in the middle of their season and doing all their other, obligations. And, it brings a lot of money to the league, and it advertises the league, and it shows them off. And these players who work so hard to do that aren't being fairly compensated.
Yeah.
And for months, they say that they have tried privately to, discuss these kind of bonus terms, and the league still has not brought forward a reasonable proposal. And it's a shame.
Yeah,
like that.
Really
This should not be happening for a league that wants to be one of the biggest in the world, that, has experienced this much growth and is now, in the eyes of the world, a bigger league than it was several years ago. It's a shame that they're doing this, and players that have helped the league get to this point deserve a whole hell of a lot more than what they're getting right now.
Yep. And one of because I was going the same direction you were. I was about to pull up the statement from them, but I think one of the sentences in that statement that really stood out to me, it's kind of damning, was, and I'll read this whole: for months, the players have privately and respectfully invited the league to discuss bonus terms, which is what you were just talking about. Yeah, MLS has failed to bring forward a reasonable proposal. Instead of recognizing the players who have brought MLS to the global stage, the league, which routinely asks the Players Association to deviate from the CBA, is clinging to an out-of-date CBA provision and ignoring long-standing international standards on what players typically receive from FIFA prize money and global competition. So
unacceptable.
I don't think there's a world. It is unacceptable. I don't think there's a world in which you could look and know anything about the way a CBA works and a Players Association and a union, blah, blah, blah. Over the past 3 years since Leagues Cup came around, I don't think you can look at that and say, oh, well, there hasn't been some behind the scenes backdoor, maybe not backdoor, but behind the scenes agreements that the Players Association and the league have had to come to. Because when that CBA was ratified, the Leagues Cup was not a thing. And now you're also having this other tournament. And to be fair, I mean, it's only it's 3 MLS teams, whatever.
But still, though,
it's still like you're on the biggest stage for a club team in the world, period. And you're having an overall purse of over $1 billion. And you have the audacity to try and give each player on these teams $33,000.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of here, dude.
That's an insult.
That is an insult. That is a slap in the face for all the work, because like it says in the statement, you have piled on other competitions, right? Leagues Cup is one of them. Now the Open Cup is there, and it should be every team. That's a totally different topic, but that's a competition. Again, Leagues Cup, MLS, and then really the expanded playoff format, which is more games. Throw in international duty for any international players. And then now you add in this tournament, and it's like, hey, man, we don't get breaks. We don't get breaks. I mean, look at MLS. Like, the season runs from February till, in some cases, December. Like, the quality of life, like, that's crap. And you're expecting me to be okay with $33,000. Don't ask me to do the math on like what that could equate to the amount of time being worked. But these players see their teammates more than they do their family for 11 out of the 12 months in the year. That's not fair, especially when other teams and other leagues are getting well beyond that. It's crap.
Yeah. Again, Real Madrid players, if they win, each of their players will get $1 million. Each. Not split between the entire team. Each of their players will get $1 million. CBA or MLS owners, players need to do something. I mean, unfortunately, it's too late for Club World Cup. But if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be taken seriously as a league, especially with the number of matches you're expected to play, you got to do something with how much these players are getting played, how many roster slots you have. You got to look at this from top to bottom and say, we have to change something in this next CBA, and it expires at the end of the 2027 season. So they need to take this into account if they want to be taken seriously. If they want players to take Club World Cup seriously, you better pay them to take it seriously, because right now they aren't.
And by the way, sources say, or reports are saying that Inter Miami and LAFC are planning similar protests at their next games before the Club World Cup. Well, actually, Inter Miami when they start the Club World Cup, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and it kind of overshadows, like you said, Tyler. It was a good game between Minnesota and Seattle. Sounders tried to find a way back after going down 3-1. They scored a little bit late, but maybe it was too late to come back fully. I think that was a needed win for Minnesota, who have established itself as a really strong team under Eric Ramsey in the second season. Had drawn the last two matches against Austin and Vancouver, but they go on the road to Seattle and get a win, proving that, yes, you can win away from home. It's not impossible to win away from home, but it's quite a credible win for Minnesota, who have now won 4 matches away from Allianz Field. And right now, I believe only Philadelphia has more wins away from home. Several teams, Philadelphia and Chicago, have more wins away from home with 5. Several teams tied in MLS with 4 away wins. So a strong win for Minnesota United away from the friendly confines of Allianz Field.
Yeah. And it's nice because Minnesota, they've been a fairly well-rounded team this year. I think I've enjoyed kind of the way that they're playing. I mean, they're not the most consistent. They're doing the job, but I'm always a big fan of, seeing a moment like this where, every fan base, every team, every club has that other team that they see on the schedule and they're like, that's going to suck going away there. It freaking blows. Atlanta, the Red Bulls, like recent, it's never a fun time. They haven't done the job up there. Everybody has that one. So when they overcome that moment, that's always cool to see. So,
yeah. All right, Tony Oluwase with a brace in that one. Now with 8 goals for Minnesota United, leads the team. And not too far off of the Golden Boot lead. Obviously, Barabel has 13, but another strong season from Oluwase, who really came out of nowhere last season, but has never come out of the form that he found last year. Setting out to be a career year for 2025 for Oluwase. Has played himself onto the Canadian national team roster, and his run of form continues for Minnesota.
Yeah, and Minnesota's better for it. They get forward really, really well, and they're able to, with Joaquin Pereira in that midfield kind of pulling the strings. He's been very important for this side. He leads the team in assists with, I believe, 7. He didn't have one in this game, but he did have the shot on goal that was parried and led to, I believe, Oluwase's second goal of the night. And so, no, it's a really good Minnesota team, and they're doing really, really well so far this season. They are just 2 points off the top of the West, and so yeah, it's good to see them kind of doing well. And yeah, let's see where this takes them.
Real quick, do we want to put a fraud alert on for FC Cincinnati?
I was just about to say, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's always nice for Atlanta to be the cause of a team falling apart, and I don't think it's over for Cincinnati. I want to preface it by saying that, but they got beat at home by DC United.
Right.
I mean,
it's kind of funny.
It is funny.
A little bit.
We're a little rough going for Cincinnati right now.
I believe they're winless since facing Atlanta, right?
Their winless is facing TFC, so they beat TFC at BMO Field 1-0. They haven't won a match since. They drew the crown on the road, lost to Atlanta 4-2. Drew Dallas at home, and then have not lost to DC. So, yeah, bit of a rough patch for Cincinnati. We're looking at, guys, one of the top teams in the East, and they still are up there in the East. But here come Miami. Here come Nashville. Right behind them. Here come Red Bulls even. Right behind them. So, if Cincinnati aren't careful, they're going to fall off that top 4 slot. But a massive win for DC, who have been looking for anything to get above water this season. Just their 4th win of the year, and that broke a 5-match winless streak for DC, during which they scored, guys, just 1 goal in that stretch and a 1-1 draw against the Revs. So not only did they found the score sheet, they beat one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. So quite a credible win for DC United.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hell is real for Ohio teams right now, because
it is.
Both of them are going through rough stretches. Again, I'm not very worried about Cincinnati. They have a very solid team, and they'll probably bounce back soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just unfortunate, them running into DC kind of in that moment. DC not having the greatest season so far. I mean, they have 18 points in 17 games. It's kind of, middle of the road, but bad. Yeah. And so on paper, that doesn't really make sense, but that's what happens. And you have your next 2 games, away to New England, away to Montreal. You have 3 consecutive away games, by the way. New England, Montreal, and Orlando. That last one, definitely the tougher one. But, you have to get back. At some point, because like you said, they are being chased now in the conference standings. So can't fall asleep for too long.
Yeah. And Michael,
a league where anybody can win at
any day.
League of parity. We say it all the time.
Michael saying in the chat that they haven't been the same since Latte Life took out Nick Hagelin. I mean, I think there were some struggles before that, but I will say this about that. I don't know if y'all saw, I put it in our Discord, which y'all should all go join, by the way. Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. Get you in the Discord, among other things. But anyway, Nick Hagelin put up a thing on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was just like videos taken from when he was in the hospital that night, and like the recovery and the surgery and everything else. And he made light of it. He even commented and said, I never expected to get taken out by my favorite coffee drink.
Yeah. That's funny.
But it's good to see him in good spirits and poking fun at it, because I think, again, everybody else, unless you're a Cincinnati fan, kind of realizes like it was a freak accident. It was an accident, guys. And I'm gonna hold on to that forever. Like
everyone calm down.
Right. Yeah. But I understand the frustration. I do think there are players that you don't want to lose, and Nick Hagelin is one of them.
Yeah.
And
it's a backbone of that team.
Yeah. Their struggles are probably going to continue to a degree. But before we jump over to the Sweetwater matches to watch really quick, who gets right first, Columbus or Cincinnati?
I think Columbus.
Ooh.
I think Columbus.
I think Columbus too.
Well, who does Columbus have next? Because it's not Atlanta.
Let's give us your reflex.
It is Vancouver.
Well,
I'm going to say Cincinnati.
Well, two versus one, Henry. You lose.
That's fine. I'll take the L on that one. Shoot. I started coughing like crazy.
Don't die.
You know what you need? Something to drink. You know
what can I drink, Tyler?
Sweetwater.
Oh.
These are our Sweetwater matches to watch. There are only 5 this week, so it's kind of slim pickings. And I see, Sydney, that you have also grabbed the same one I did.
I did. That's just
the games are from Saturday.
Dude, that's cheating.
Saturday, you have DC versus Chicago, and then Colorado versus Austin, and then on Sunday, 3 games on a Sunday, more on Sunday than on Saturday, which is really weird. Portland, St. Louis at 7, LAFC versus SKC at 9, and then the Whitecaps versus Seattle also at 9. So,
well, can we unanimously say it's Vancouver, Seattle? Because that's one I was going to pick if Tyler hadn't picked it since like the other day.
I didn't think get in early. Pick the same one.
Yeah, of course you got in early. The 1 week where there were 5 games.
I didn't have a minute to look at.
Darn it, man. That's a good one, but you go ahead and talk about it because you were the one that put it down first.
I mean, I think there's just so many storylines. Seattle, coming off a tough game, and also the drama with the Club World Cup, getting ready to go into the Club World Cup. But I want to see how Vancouver responds in a derby match after coming off a 5-0 trouncing down in Mexico. I'm curious to see. And this one game isn't going to dictate the rest of the season, but I'm curious to see how they bounce back. I think they had the resilience to not let it get under their skin. But like we said at the beginning of the show, sometimes, man, these losses like that in a final or a semifinal or something, like you never know the effect that it can have on morale and what it can do for the rest of the season. And Seattle's going to be a good test because it is a derby. So I'm excited.
Yes, Cascadia. I mean, do you need really any other reason to watch? Just like Vancouver are looking to respond, obviously, from a final. So it's a little bit different than Seattle, who are looking to respond from a loss themselves. But can they respond? This is their first loss of the season at Lemon Field. So Seattle, who have inched their way up the table, now a top 4 team, going against a Vancouver team at the top of the table.
Become faceless.
You've disappeared.
Sorry. I don't know what happened.
He's like,
not sure. You
Carry
can
on.
Hear me.
You can monologue. Yeah, I can hear you.
Top of the table in the West, Vancouver versus the Seattle team trying to make headway themselves. So can they get the win? Can they bounce back from a loss, the first loss of the season first home loss of the season against Minnesota, and get right against the Vancouver team, trying to get right themselves after losing a final?
Henry, you had a runner-up in our Sweetwater matches to watch.
Yeah, I actually chose another game. Mine was Colorado Austin. I really, really wanted Vancouver Seattle, but Colorado Austin, I just think they're kind of in a very similar position in the table. They are, they're floating right around the playoff line. Colorado with 22 points in 8th, Austin with 20 in 10th. So these are two teams, like, this is a battle for remaining in the playoffs, basically, in the playoff spots at this point in the season. That probably doesn't really matter a whole lot, but I think it's interesting because it's two teams that are more or less at a similar, I guess, level. But yeah, because I couldn't pick Vancouver Seattle, because I will abide by the rules of Sweetwater matches to watch, unlike other folks on this show, that is the one that I'm choosing.
I'll give you another runner-up. Everybody listening, I'll give you one more. And this can be the alternative pick, so you have 3. LAFC, SKC. There's always just kind of like an edge to those games. And to be fair, it has been incredibly lopsided over the past few years. SKC has not won against LAFC since 2021.
Wow.
So it's been a minute. But that year they won, they won 2 of their 3 matchups. So, but since then it's been all LAFC. But again, LAFC coming off kind of a wild game, Club America, it was kind of a one-off odd situation. SKC, we all know the situation with Peter Vermees earlier in the year. Gets fired. Thought he was going to be there until he was a great grandfather. And since then, I mean, they're not on a great run, but it's way better than they started off. They won against Houston Saturday, a couple of draws before that. Lost 1-0 to Portland, beat the Galaxy. I mean, they've been kind of flip-floppy for a while now, but they've at least got some semblance of getting back on track.
Yeah.
So, I kind of have a feeling that one is going to end up a little chippy. I wouldn't be surprised if that one ends with 11-11.
Oh,
Making
the prediction,
making the red card
will be sent off.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know who it's going to be.
We'll see. Well, like you said, a light slate of matches this weekend, but I wasn't aware that we couldn't pick the same one, Henry. So, thanks for calling me out.
Colonel said it right. This next Vancouver match may very well dictate the rest of their season.
Yep.
You never know. We might be looking back in October being like, man, you remember?
Yeah.
We were calling them Supporter Shield leaders, Vancouver Whitecaps, for
not anymore.
The entire season.
They still have 2 games in hand. I think they'll be fine. But
yeah.
this match, I do agree, will be be a good thermometer for what the rest of the season will be.
Yeah. All right. Y'all go check out, again, scarvesandspikes.com. If you like our content, guys, again, make sure you like, subscribe, everything on YouTube. We truly appreciate that. Also, go join the Patreon. Get you access to our Discord, our extra content that goes up. We've got all kinds of stuff going up. We're getting ready to do some really fun stuff with some local Atlanta businesses as well. Folks on Patreon will be the first ones to hear about that and try to get you guys involved as much as possible. So patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. We'll be back on Wednesday, 7:00 for our normal show. And then next Wednesday, that normal show will involve hot sauce. So there's our teaser for the day. But
also be sure to subscribe Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart. I want to throw out the socials. I don't think we ever throw out our social media channels on the show. And follow us on X, Scarves, the Loader, and Spikes. We're on Blue Sky, scarvesandspikes.com. Threads, Scarves and Spikes, and Instagram, Scarves and Spikes. Facebook, Scarves and Spikes, just search Scarves and Spikes. All of the links to our social media channels are on our website. So if it is a social media platform, guys, we are on it. I'm at SH Wrights, Tyler is at ATL Pilgrim, and Henry is at HA Hagita on X. And we're on Blue Sky as well.
Yes, indeed. All right.
Follow us, like us, subscribe.
Yes.
And thanks for watching and listening.
Absolutely.
Cue the music.
Hey, that was perfect. Look at that. Y'all are in tune. This will give Sydney time to go figure out what's going on with this camera.
Yeah, for real, dude.
I have no idea what happened.
You just were in the middle of talking and it just turned off. It's like, I'm done.
Just dipped out.
Right.
Sometimes it'd be like that, just get tired of working.
Yeah. Kind of like Vancouver Whitecaps in that final.
It was so bad. There was like really no saving grace in that one at all.
None at all. I got bored. Anyway.
See y'all on Wednesday.